It's over, chat. This is the final video of High Guard. This is it, chat. This is the ending of High Guard. This is actually the end of High Guard. It's over, chat. It's Jover. It's finally over, chat. It has run its course, but it's actually shutting down. High Guard is shutting down. It lasted pretty long, I'll give it that. It lasted longer than Concord, I'll be honest with you. But it's over. It's over for High Guard. Well, not a shocker to be. I'm gonna be very honest with you. Not a shocker that High Guard is closing down. I'm gonna be very honest with you.
Inevitable has just happened. High Guard has officially shut down. And the writing was on the wall with this one. Once the game launched and we started to see how fast the game's player base started to crater, it was just obvious there was no coming back from this, especially because of the fact that this is a free-to-play live service, which means that if you don't have a player base who is currently spending money on the microtransactions, then there...
Right. Let me see. Hold on. First things first. Whenever we check at a High Guard video, we always gotta look at the numbers or so every single time. Yeah. Oof. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Uh-huh. Yeah. And then one last thing or so, let me see. How do you spell Jeff Keighley again? I keep forgetting how to spell this guy's name. Geof? Oh, there it is. Found it. Mr. Jeff Keighley, do you have your apology towards us, to be honest? High Guard will go offline on March 12th. I gotta see the comment sections for this. In 48 hours, I'll be accepting your apologies. The Concordian timeline. Oh, dude. Oh my god. Oh man. There's still one more game that needs to be released or so before this is all done. Concord, Concord 2, Concord 3, Concord 4, and then Concord number 5. The future of gaming, huh? Concord 2. I just killed a game studio with my freaking mind. The trilogy Concord. High Guard didn't flop. No way. Anyways, bye Guard. Oh, dude, I'm saving that. I'm totally saving that. Oh, dude, that's... Oh, dude. Oh, man. This dude. Oh, man. We don't need player counts to be huge, to be super huge in order to be successful. High Guard does respond to the posters declaring it's dead on arrival. Just make Titanfall 3 is really just not that hard. Screw this live service nonsense. True. They could have done literally a Titanfall 3. I get it, you know, they're their own indie studios, but they could have done something like kind of like more like what's the word or so? A nod off to Titanfall 3 or like an inspiration to Titanfall 3. Not exactly the same as Titanfall 3, but something like similar to it. You got the thumbnail for your next video? I do got the thumbnail for my next video. Bye Guard. These comment sections, I'm not gonna lie, to be honest. In 48 hours, I'll accept your apology. Oh man, dude. Oh man, that's pretty. Damn, that's brutal.
It's just no point in continuously spending money on the maintenance aspect of this live service.
It's
and now
Jover,
we're
man.
at a point where the player base has dipped into the triple digits. And so at that point, yeah, it's nowhere near enough players to make this a viable live service. The writing was also on the wall when about 2 weeks after launch, it was announced that Wildlight would be laying off most of their staff.
Yep.
While it is not stated here that it's most of the staff, people on LinkedIn who worked at Wildlight were saying that, you know, like most of the team has been gutted. And then a later report revealed that only about 20 developers remain trying to like keep the game updated. But the fate of Wildlight and Highguard was sealed at that point. The end result is that today on March 3rd, 2026, they have officially announced that this will be Highguard's final update that'll be arriving soon. Here's the full statement. Today, we're sharing difficult news. We made the decision to permanently shut down Highguard on March 12th. Since launch, more than 2 million players stepped into Highguard's world. You shared feedback, created content, and many believed in what we were building. For that, we are deeply grateful. The fact that 2 million players checked the game out and ultimately most of them decided to not stay goes to highlight that the issues surrounding Highguard were deeper than just its failed marketing campaign. The way it was announced at the Game Awards as the big finale, a live service that just didn't have a particularly impressive trailer, that garnered a lot of negative feedback because of the spotlight that that slot at the Game Awards brings to any game. And if the game itself doesn't feel worthy of that spotlight, then the spotlight turns incredibly sour. That's kind of what happened to Highguard, and I think it ultimately ended up biting the game in the ass when it comes to like an optics standpoint. But it wasn't just that. While Highguard was a valiant effort, the fact remains that the game had a lot of issues. And if those issues didn't exist, and if they didn't have the, you know, what former developers called hubris to think that they could just replicate what worked with Apex Legends and try to just do a redo of that with Highguard, if they had the sense to host a beta and really listen to player feedback and overhaul it before truly launching it, I think Highguard would have stood more of a chance because what ideas they were going for would have been more refined. It was a valiant idea that did try something kind of new, but the execution was just flawed enough that it didn't allow that player retention. It didn't pave the road for, you know, 2 million players ultimately deciding that this was worth their time above all the other live services in this oversaturated market. But yeah, permanently shutting down on March 12th means that the game is shutting down just a mere 45 days after its launch, and it just feels like more and more live services are shutting down sooner and sooner after its release. And this is not something that I celebrate. You know, I would have loved for Highguard to go far and above the expectations.
I hate this. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of hate this specific mentality specifically. Don't get me wrong. Young, yeah, there's just some shit. There's stuff. That's not how life works, okay? Life works like this, okay? You either make a good product and you succeed, or you make a shitty product and you fail miserably. That's just how life works. Life is unfair, okay? That's just how life is, okay? We don't just give winners, you know, we don't give a participation award or so to everybody, okay? That's just not how it works around here, okay? You got winners and you got losers, okay? That's just how the world works, okay? If you make a shit product, it's gonna be, you know, the customers are gonna fucking hate it and they're not gonna bother even spending time with it, so.
And the high bar that comes with being featured as the Game Awards big finale, unfortunately, it just quite didn't. And while Highguard wasn't as bad as what happened with Concord, it still comes kind of close. Concord died just 14 days after launch. Highguard died 45 days after launch.
The difference between why Concord died faster compared to Highguard is because you had to pay money for Concord. Highguard was a free-to-play game, so people who didn't want to spend money in this game would try it out and immediately didn't like it or so. That's the difference. That is the difference why. That's why when, you know, I don't know when this video comes out or so. That's why I want to see the marathon numbers when the game is actually out. How many of those people are going to pay for the game?
Which is better, but really not by much. The statement continues, despite the passion and hard work of our team, we have not been able to build a sustainable player base to support the game long term. Servers will remain online until March 12th. We hope you'll jump in with us one more time to show your support and get those final great matches in while we still can. Yeah, I mean, sustainability is a key factor with any live service, and with Highguard in particular, it was actually funded by
is that coming
Tencent,
out?
something that wasn't disclosed from the outset, which felt a little weird.
Oh, it's on a
but
Thursday, though.
basically,
That's my day
Tencent
off.
helped fund the game, and their continued funding was contingent on HighGuard meeting certain metrics that it clearly woefully fell short of, at which point Tencent decided to cut funding, which is when all of the layoffs started to happen, not monetizing well enough for this project to break even given the high cost of maintaining it. Of course, they had no choice but to shut it down. But this all begs the question of how worth it is it really to pursue a games as a service when this is a kind of product that if you don't meet a certain standard, it can fall apart in just 45 days. That is ridiculous and insane. Pursuing a live service, especially as a brand new studio that sure might be composed of veterans, but you're still an unproven new studio with a brand new live service in an oversaturated market while being so financially strapped that if you're not successful, then you can fall apart in 45 days. To me, it's just like such an irresponsible.
There was also so much shit behind the scenes also on top of that. They only had one artist working on creating the heroes for the characters. They had one artist working on the characters, and that same artist was also the leader of the group or so for the microtransactions for the game itself. So I'm just kind of like, who the fuck decided to do this, you know?
Model to pursue. It's this all or nothing approach with no safety net that I think doesn't serve well to be the first project that a brand new game studio tackles. I think they have to build up to a point where they're able to tackle something like this and still have a safety net. And I know the development,
like making a live service game or so, especially for like your first game as a studio, I just feel like it's not gonna do very well. I really don't think so. I think it's just better to do like one of the other game genres instead.
Developers made their best efforts and truly believed in this project, and they got a lot of good internal feedback, but that was also part of the hubris where the conditions in which they got that internal feedback were different from the conditions surrounding the game.
Well, yeah, of course, because if you're doing internal testing or so, it's like basically playing on couch games, you know? Like all your friends are there literally in the same room playing the same game, compared to like, you know, me playing some of my friends who live like many miles away from me. It's not the same thing. It's literally not the same thing.
Out in the wild and being played by players who don't have developers on their side to guide them through stuff, or who might be playing with strangers, whereas a lot of internal tests, you know, it involves a group of people who are collaborating together to play the game. It's just a very different environment, and that internal feedback that was so overwhelmingly positive, but without the proper environment and without all of the beta tests to the public to really gauge like what people really think outside of that bubble, the over-reliance on that was another major downfall of HighGuard. But yeah, HighGuard will release some final bits of content before it comes to an end. It reads right here, the team is excited to release one final game update to enjoying the remaining life of the game. We'll be adding a new warden, new weapon, account level progression, and skill trees. Full patch notes are coming, and we're targeting...
Excuse me, skill trees? Dude, I feel like they really, you know... they really straight up had, you know, like they really wanted to make it like an open survival game. Like I feel like that's the aspect of like open survival. Why would anyone play this game at this point? For the YouTube videos, that's about it. The YouTubers would probably be making it.
Tonight or tomorrow morning for patch release. From all of us at Wildlight, thank you for playing, for supporting us, and for being part of HighGuard's story. But yeah, I think what it ultimately comes down to are a lot of like strategic missteps and a lot of decisions made from
also, I saw the Actman comment or so specifically. I'm like, brother, they have no money to sustain the servers and they can't pay. If they're not getting enough monetization from their actual like monetization, like microtransaction shit, Actman, the game is not gonna keep open for that long. It is literally a waste of money, especially when Tencent pulled out of their fundings or so for this game. They have no money left to keep up the servers, so...
that just from the words of former developers is described as hubris because of the fact that once upon a time they worked on all of these mega hits like Titanfall, which, you know, didn't perform well but was still well beloved and paved the road to what ended up being the mega hit Apex Legends. But Apex Legends came around the time when Battle Royale was explosively popular, when that market wasn't super oversaturated, and
I think Battle Royale was a mistake to be made, to be honest.
it had the Respawn name to kind of back it as well, to
And that's not even a
just
hot
give it
take,
that
that's a
much more of
fucking
a
fact.
level of prominence. Wildlight had none of that with Highguard. It tackled a new genre, I suppose, that ultimately is a combination of a bunch of existing genres, and it still leaned enough into existing gameplay tropes, and the execution was lacking enough that ultimately this was a game that could not stand out from the pack and came in at a time when it's more difficult than ever to break into the live service market. So I think Highguard ultimately, like, it sucks that it all played out the way it did. I wish Highguard could have been massively successful and it could have, surpassed expectations surrounding it.
Exactly.
But that's just
Especially
not
if it
what
doesn't pop
ultimately
off.
ended up happening. And I think mainly Highguard is a cautionary tale of like some of the things that you shouldn't do, especially when you're trying to ship a live service. But it feels like history tends to repeat itself over and over again when it comes to games as a service, because ultimately it is just that risky of an endeavor, to the point where, if you miss metrics by a certain degree, then you can fall apart in mere days. And if you ask me, no model that has that severe of a risk is worth pursuing, especially as your first ever project, when
Yeah, but I played the game itself. I put 6 hours into that game, and I can tell you this much: the game was not that great to play. The FPS itself did not feel great.
all of your success and all of your ability to just even be able to keep the lights on is riding on.
I was getting tilted, I think, after the 4-hour mark or so. I was getting so tilted because now the problems were showing up in the game.
On its success, especially when it's free to play. To me, Highguard just ultimately, in many different facets, just made no sense.
Not
I do
even
wish the
Call of
developers who
Duty
worked
made
on
me
this
that
well. I hope
tilted.
they land on their feet and are able to find other ventures that will
And that
allow
says a
them
lot,
to
to be
take
honest.
risks that are like more appropriate for the environment that we're in right now when it comes to the gaming landscape, and are able to ship things that they can not only be really proud of, but are able to do well, and it be, something to celebrate rather than
Dookie
it
Guard
be
is
like
dead.
this really unceremonious and depressing end to a project that
That's a Souls-like
just
game.
really
That's like the
wasn't
worst
handled as
Souls-like
well as it
game.
could
I'm
have
talking
been.
about
But that,
FPS
folks, is
game.
everything I gotta say about Highguard's shutdown.
Even if it's still
It's
chasing live
about
service, so it
as
doesn't
I
matter how
predicted.
many vids you make,
Though
saying it's not
admittedly,
worth,
it happened even
worth taking
faster
the
than I was
risks.
expecting. And I'd love to hear what your thoughts
Like
and
I
opinions
said,
are on
the
how
only way for it to hurt them is literally in their wallets, and I'm not surprised that this game is pretty much fucking dead, to be honest. I'm not surprised. The wall was written on it since its day. In 48 hours, I'll be accepting your apology. I do believe Jeff Keighley owes us an apology. It was a Concord 2 after all. 2 million played, only 388 stayed. Highguard lasted 3 Concords long. At this point, they ought to change the genre name from live service to Doom service. I mean, at least it survived longer than Concord, but then again, that's a hard one to beat. That is true. That is very, very, very true. Jeff Keighley owes us an apology for apology he was begging for. Yep. Wow, a new record. Looks like Jeff is gonna have to make a lot of apologies. Yep. I can't wait to see Summer Game Fest when that happens. Rest in peace, you won't be missed, Highguard. True, true. Since the announcement, people knew it won't survive long. Yep. I knew exactly that this game, because when I saw that trailer, so literally on the Game Awards show, I'm like, what the hell is this, dude? When I heard the developers of Apex Legends and Titanfall, I was like, oh come on, man, make like a Titanfall inspired video game at least, do something like that, But nope, they didn't do anything like that. And it was just kind of like, I was like, it's another hero shooter game. It is just like, but it's like, it's a lot worse of a hero shooter game. It's not even in a small map. It's in a big open wide field map that is pretty dead. And the only action you ever get is after like 3 minutes of looting. When the sword spawns in, you go after the sword and you kind of like kill them or so. And then you push into their base, put the sword in, spawn the thing, and then it's just kind of like whatever, It was just not that great. It really was not. It's just people who were defending it, saying that it does feel good to shoot in. Brother in Christ, you have not played a shooter game ever. An actual good shooter game, okay? let me remind you this. If you're saying that the shooting mechanic is good in the game, that means you've been playing hot garbage games throughout your entire life. If you never really played an actual good shooter game. Hell, even fucking what's the name of that one? What's the name of that one game that shut down from Ubisoft? Fucking X Defiant was a good shooter game. Okay, all right, it felt pretty good to shoot. They're coping, dude. They're coping so hard, but whatever. Anyways, I guess you can like garbage at the end of the day, you know. Just like what Captain Price says, you know, it's not hard to improve on garbage, you know. That's why I feel like the Western side of the community devs is literally burning down or so, because they don't know how to make actual good video games. It's very sad to be seeing what's been happening in the Western side of video games. But at the end of the day, I didn't really play much Western games in general. I mostly played a lot of like Eastern Asian games, a lot more than Western games. So I could care less, because Western devs don't really appeal to me whatsoever. I'm not a huge fan of like the way how they design certain games in general. There's only like few games that I played or so from the Western side, and that's it. So, but yeah. Anyways, that's the end of the video. Rest in piss. You know, it's over. It's Jover. Highguard is dead, and I'm not surprised whatsoever. Problem was, they think they know better. They think they know what's good for their customers, but what they did is what we call being lazy and not doing their homework and what we like, but they tried to force feed it to us. That's the thing itself. It's definitely the consultants or so. If I doubt it. They hired any consultants or so, but if they did or so, the consultants are the ones who lie or so. They think they know what video game trending is happening or so, and it's just kind of like, no, they don't. They don't know what video game trending is happening. So, at the end of the day, it is what it is. So it's over. It's over. It's dead. Rest in piss and pepperoni. So, oh well, it is what it is. So sucks to suck, I guess, you know. But I have to blame the upper management though on this one specifically, that they literally did not allow this game to have a beta. They refused to have a beta because they have the massive ego of saying, nah, we don't need a beta. Bruh, we're gonna do the same thing what we did during the Apex Legends day. We're just gonna fucking shadow drop this shit. And it's just kind of like, brother, it's not the same fucking game, dude. Like, literally, it's not even the same fucking game. They're using Internet Explorer. Even if they hired a consultant, does a consultant ever play the game before? No, they don't do shit. They just kind of like said lies or so. They did field crafting, not actual researching. It just should have been a survival game, to be honest. I think a survival game would have been just fine with it. I think I would have been a-okay with it, to be frankly honest, but whatever. It is what it is. Well, it's dead. I salute this game. I'm gonna play the one song or so for Highguard. Here, I'm gonna do this for Highguard for you. For Highguard, this is for Highguard right here. This will be for Highguard. This is for you, Highguard. You will be forgotten and you will be missed. This is for Highguard right here. Rest in piss, Highguard. I knew you well, Highguard. You were the shittiest FPS game I've ever played so far. Honestly, you had nothing really unique to stand out, to be honest. It was very sad. You didn't live very long, but yet you didn't live very short compared to Concord. At least you beat Concord, so it was very nice, man. Very nice indeed, to be honest. Rest in piss and pepperonis. And nothing of value was lost. That is very true. It definitely was not lost whatsoever. Nothing was lost at the end of the day. So at least all those almost 100K people at least experience Highguard, and they can say it down to their grandkids and say that Highguard was the shittiest FPS game ever released besides Concord. We can make the Mount Rushmore of the FPS scene, or the live service swap anyways. Next one will be Marathon, and we'll do the same thing as well. Anyways. That's the end of the video. And goodbye, Highguard, goodbye. Now we need to find a new game to milk. That'll be Marathon.